You're listening to Packers Talk Radio Network.
PackersTalk.com. Eddie Lacy, Mike Daniels, Gilbert Brown, Don Barclay, Micah Hyde, your Green Bay Packers, yesterday's legends and today's superstars. From corporate or non-profit events to private parties, add some spice, hire a Packers player from Mayfield Sports Marketing. For details, just go to PackersTalk.com and click on Player Appearances.
Are you looking for some signed Packer memorabilia?
Look no further than Waukesha Sports Cards.
If a Green Bay Packer can sign it, Waukesha Sports Cards has it.
Check our website for upcoming Packer player and legend signings.
Go to WaukeshaSportsCards.com.
Rodgers was open, bench ball, do it himself, touchdown Packers! Aaron Rodgers into the end zone.
You're listening to the best Packer radio show on the internet.
Cheesehead Radio.
Reach the eye.
Guess who's back?
So they tried to address the problem, but so far, like you said, nothing.
I guess the bright side is it happened early enough on that there's time.
What are you talking about? We're going to talk about the pass rush. You can't talk about what's not there.
If we don't start pushing that pocket back and getting some pass rush, we're going to tear the secondary apart.
Seats in the bowl at Lambeau will definitely outweigh the demand for seats again.
All right, Green Bay Packer fans, pay no mind to the negativity of the week prior to this. All is good in Packerland. All is good. All is happy. And it all came down to one play that actually occurred outside the 60-minute regular time of the entire game. Everything seems to be fantastic now. Hopefully, maybe, we hope. We'll find out on Sunday as we take on the Dallas Cowboys. My name is C.D. Angel. You can find my work over at Cheesehead TV and, of course, at PackersTalk.com. I am joined by the amazing Jersey Al Bracco tonight, co-hosting here in the Cheesy Studio. He also has Cheesehead TV and PackersTalk.com. And later on, we're bringing back Bill Huber. This is the guy who publishes Packer Report. You can find him on Twitter at Packer Report, also affiliated with Scout.com. Lots of knowledge bombs you're going to get out of him tonight. Hopefully he'll have some answers for us if we have a reason to be looking up or a reason to still be a little bit wary. I'd like to throw out a quick thank you to our sponsors. Mayfield Sports Marketing. You can follow them over at Mayfield Sport. And, of course, Waukesha Sports Cards. Give them a follow over at Walk Sports, and thanks to both of them for everything they do for us. For right now, what we're going to do for you is we're going to give you some Packer news.
Jersey Al and Jamie bring you this week's Packer News.
Well, Packers Nation is happy once again, well, at least for this week. With zero time on the clock after a face mask penalty gave Rodgers one more play, the seemingly impossible happened. Rodgers threw a high-flying Hail Mary pass into the end zone, which the other Rodgers from Cal brought down for a game-winning 61-yard touchdown pass.
What was extra sweet about it, the Packers finally executed some level of revenge on Golden Tate for the Hail Mary. With Tate in the house to get the full effect of what it feels like to lose like that, the Packers sent Tate and the Lions off into the night as losers, adding insult to injury. When asked about it after the game, Mike McCarthy tweaked Tate by saying, "At least our guy caught the ball."
One of his best lines in many years. And catch the ball is what Richard Rodgers did, and not just on that final play. Rodgers was targeted 8 times and pulled them all in for 161 yards. Running back James Starks caught 7 passes as well. With the Packers receivers still struggling to be physical enough to separate in man coverage, the Packers clearly had a plan to make better use of the tight ends and running backs in the passing game.
Those receivers did a great job as decoys in the end zone on that last play, though. Now, as for the running game, it was fairly non-existent also, with Aaron Rodgers leading the way with 27 of the total 67 yards gained in the ground. But rookie John Crockett, playing in his first NFL game, did provide a second-half spark with 22 yards on 5 carries, but more importantly, his enthusiasm was infectious and seemed to pull the Packers out of their doldrums.
And Crockett was only on the field because of a curfew missing incident involving Alonzo Harris and Eddie Lacy the night before the game. Just hours before the game, Harris was straight out cut from the team, and Crockett was signed to the active roster. Lacy was demoted as the starter and played only 19 snaps the entire game.
As was sorely needed, Lacy and Coach McCarthy had a private discussion early this week where they cleared the air, according to Lacy. It must have worked for all involved, as Lacy called it a life lesson that will never happen again. And McCarthy has been praising Lacy all week long on how good he looks in practice.
And that was the latest Packers news. Next up is Gems from the Packers Twitterverse.
This week's Gems from the Packers Twitterverse.
Now, @ByRyanWood gave us perhaps the most surprising of all the reactions to the Motown Miracle. Following the play when he tweeted, "Ted Thompson, sitting behind me, just jumped to his feet screaming on the field. Madness. Packers season saved."
Oh, somebody has to have that on video.
Visual is just boondoggling me right now. Wow.
Like that famous Ted Thompson clapping video. We need somebody who caught this.
Or
Somebody
smiling,
yeah.
Anything like that, yeah.
Yeah. Well, perhaps you're one of those folks jumping on the offensive play calling, but @MChicoE is willing to call you out when he tweeted, "Isn't it interesting that everyone is a genius play caller except the guy actually calling the plays?"
And he's actually getting paid. You know, the lemmings flee to the cliffs, as seemingly happens every week on the Packer Twittersphere, every time that there's a Packer game. But those folks were called out in grand fashion by our favorite tweeter, @PackerRanter, following the Lions game, when he said, "Would love to chat with some people who claim the game was over after the first quarter, but
they're not around."
No, they're not.
But the best tweet of the week came from the Packers' long snapper, Brett Good, on the official Packers Twitter account. When asked if he'd rather be president of the United States or a long snapper, he wittily replied, "Long snapper now, maybe president later. You can't be president until you're 35. And that tweet was your Cheesehead Radio tweet of the week.
Tweets of the week.
So he has presidential aspirations, huh?
I'm just happy, he'd passed that, immigration test. I'm sure that's got to be one of the questions. How old do you have to be president of the United States? Good job on him.
Yeah, very
Absolutely.
Good. Long snappers are probably smarter than most other football players. I think they figured out the way to have an NFL career without getting yourself killed and playing two or three plays a game or however many they end up playing.
I'll say long snapper, punter, those are some choice positions to be playing.
Yeah. Well, the punter can get run into and hit sometimes, so that's even, I'd say, a little bit more dangerous. But I kind of like long snapper.
Yeah, that would be a good one. It would be a good one.
Yeah.
Or team trainer, that's good too. Anyway, so let's make it or break it here, Mr. Bracco.
Yes.
First of all, let's talk about the Motown Miracle. Let's jump right into this.
Yeah.
The Motown Miracle.
Oh, is that the main topic of the week, do you think?
Well, why wouldn't it be? What else are we going to talk about? The running game? Can't talk about what's not there. So
that's on our intro, isn't it?
I think so. I just keep repeating.
Although it was pass rush, I think, right?
Yeah. Exactly. So, let's take the play a little bit back one, and that, of course, is the face mask penalty, which much analyzed, much scrutinized. I'm just going to put it to you like this, Jersey. If it were reversed, and it was the Lions, if it was Stafford who had gotten the face mask penalty exactly the same way, how would you be feeling right now?
Well, feeling awful that it got called, but I don't think you can deny that it was a face mask. I just don't. I mean, obviously I'd have a different feeling about it if he went against the Packers, but you break that down and look at it. He had his fingers in the face mask, and Rodgers' head moved down with it, even though he did let go fairly quickly. Doesn't matter. He had his fingers in there.
It certainly didn't hurt the cause that just the way that Aaron landed forced his chin strap up, I think, over his nose.
And notice he wasn't really quick to fix it either.
No, he wasn't.
I think he was well aware. This looks good like this. This is helping to sell the case.
Exactly. But what sold the case is the guy who did the face mask walked away with a guilty look on his. He's walking away with all that body language. Didn't argue. Oh man, I screw up. I'm like, No, it's not like either thing really was going to change anything. I mean, that flag came flying in pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So whether he was going to argue it wasn't going to change anything. But to me,
just in looking at it afterwards, it helps the argument that it was legitimate.
Sure. But there's been so many plays, and the Packers have gotten so many rough calls and narrow plays going back to the Hail Mary, and going back to during the playoffs last year. We've been on the wrong side of some bad calls, and this goes back to my philosophy that I've always said when I used to coach basketball. I always used to tell my team, this is not 5-on-5. This is 5-on-7. You're going to have to beat the other team and the refs. Not to focus on the refs, but just to say you have to play so well that you can overcome everything, and that means the full game. Now, had this play happened sometime in the middle of the second quarter, it wouldn't have mattered. I mean, we'd say, oh, well, it doesn't matter. They scored a touchdown. We'll come back and win. But because it happens at the last play of the game, everyone freaks out and says, that handed the victory to the Packers. Well, the Packers kind of had to make a big play at the end. That just didn't happen. I mean, you can't just say there's a face mask, they won.
It's not like the face mask penalty put them on the 1 yard line and all they had to do was a John Kuhn dive into the end zone,
Exactly. Well, like that would happen. But
right. Oh, I said that in irony. But anyway,
it was irony, yes.
Yeah.
But I think it goes to show you, hey, you got to play for 4 quarters. And the Lions really did fall apart. They really did. This is a team that's so not used to winning that they are just trained. It is ingrained in them. We're playing the Packers. It doesn't matter if we're winning by 40. We will fall apart and let them back in.
Well, and the first time they met, they did everything in their power to try to hand the game back to the Packers.
They did.
Yeah, but the Packers just wouldn't take it.
No, you take it. No, you take it.
Packers were so beyond awful that game that the Lions actually managed to win at Lambeau Field despite playing horribly by their own admission.
And quite honestly, Jersey, the Packers really weren't all that good for about 3.5 quarters in this game either.
No, they weren't.
I mean, they scored touchdowns by fumbling into the end zone and hoping our guy jumps on it. Not what, you draw up in the playbook.
Yeah. I mean, they were saved by 2 big fumbles, that one and the one that Peppers caused right after that. And next thing you know, there's 14 points on the board.
Exactly. So while we know now that we at least have one running back who can catch and we have a tight end who can catch, our receivers still appear to be nothing more than decoys. We have 3 different John Jeffersons right now, all running routes and hoping James Lofton's going to get open eventually. But I guess the concern, that was a reference back to Katie's. Thank you. All you young people, go look it up. Go Google.
And Dickie.
There you go. But we really had to look at this running game and just it was actually nice to see the little bit on the end of the news there, Jersey, with McCarthy talking about Lacey. What's your sense with all of this right now, with the whole Lacey drama?
Well, I kind of predicted when Lacey was going to break out and have a big game when he did a couple of games ago, and I'm kind of having the same feel this week. I think they're going to start him. I think they're going to hand him the ball, and I think they're going to give him every opportunity to show them that he deserves to be that number 1 running back. And I think Lacey will respond. So in the end, all these machinations and demotions and limited play and all this stuff, I think it'll have the desired effect that McCarthy and the Packers organization hoped it would have.
I would hope so. It just seems to be kind of an odd piece of roller coaster. People are posting pictures. He's clearly a little bit bigger than he is used to being. We speculated a few weeks ago, not just the psyche of Lacey, but the discussion that came from PFT about the video game meeting that Aaron Rodgers wasn't at. Could this pull everything together? The defense, honestly, I think for the talent that they have, has done a yeoman's job. They've done their part the past several weeks. They're not great, but they've put the Packers in a position to win.
Absolutely.
Week after week. The offense has been so off. Could this be, between the Motown Miracle and maybe Eddie Lacy getting his head back on straight, could this be the return of our offense? Or are there still problems that we have to deal with?
Yeah, no. it's not going to be returned. When you say of our offense, I assume you're thinking last year's offense, or the high-flying offense that was just ripping through people.
Or perhaps any offense. Maybe that's what any offense, besides the 2-minute offense, which is the only offense we see.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think that magically all the problems are resolved. I think, that'd be silly to assume that a 61-yard Hail Mary pass win would be the reason for that. So, no, I don't think that would be, enough to say, yeah, okay, we're on the right course now. We've got to see it for another 3 or 4 games. They've got to go out there against a pretty decent Dallas defense. They've got a good front seven. They're going to bring a good pass rush. They've got to go out there and they've got to show that they can do it one more time. And then the following week, they have to do it again. Then we can start talking about it. It's just way too soon now.
I'm going to tell you my theory here, because we're going to be going to Bill Huber here in just a few minutes, but I want your thoughts on this. I've been throwing out a hashtag called OCapers lately.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand that.
Yeah, it's not
it's
not an Irish version of Don.
That's what I was looking for. Some kind of Irish connection.
It's
OCapers.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
My thought is, if you remember 2008, and I think a lot of it had to do with Brett Favre. Brett Favre, there was the whole Favregeddon. Favre left the team. The Packer fan base was divided. I'm sure the locker room was divided. And the 2018 goes 6-10. And at the end, even though people are still calling for McCarthy and Thompson's heads and everything else, McCarthy fires the entire defensive staff, Ed Donatel, all the way down. And what he does, he says, you know what? I'm just going to bring someone in, and I'm going to give him the keys. He brings in Don Capers. And guess what? When the defense struggles, who gets blamed? Is it Mike McCarthy?
Not McCarthy.
Yeah. Who are we going to fire? Hashtag? My feeling is that we need an offensive Capers right now. An OCapers. Get it?
Mm-hmm.
Thanks. But seriously, and McCarthy came out.
You're so proud of your little things you come up with. That?
I am. I enjoy myself easily.
Whether they're good or not, you're just still so proud. I
still think this is good. But
yeah.
We need a guy who's going to come in, get the keys, who's going to do this his way and set up an offense. McCarthy came out this week, and I retweeted it. I thought it was major. McCarthy came out and admitted, I got to keep my hands out of this. I got to get my nose out of the offense. I'm trying to be too involved with the play calling, backing off. He's admitting he's still doing it. So it doesn't matter which offensive coordinator or whoever is doing it. It's still McCarthy touching and still micromanaging the play calling.
Did I not say this a couple of weeks ago? This exact
But now
thing?
we have the proof. It's not just us making stuff up to get people to listen to a podcast. I mean, McCarthy comes out and says, yes, I'm doing too much. So
sorry, all the signs were there for me that his hands were all over the offense and what was being called. I don't know. I thought it was fairly obvious to me that this was still a Mike McCarthy offense.
Well,
other people disagree.
But no, I don't disagree at all.
No, but a lot of people do. A lot of people have disagreed with me on that and say, "Oh no, it's different." I'm like, "Tell me how it's different." Give me examples.
So what do you think? Are you in favor of an OCapers?
I was in favor of that years ago. I've been yelling for that for years.
More importantly, are you in favor of the hashtag OCapers?
Oh, no, that's stupid. That's very confusing, and no one will get it the way you have it now.
But the idea is good, right? The idea of getting that off.
Yeah, the idea is cute. I'll give it a cute. It's a cutesy one. But cute is not particularly a compliment coming from me.
Cheesehead Radio. Special guest.
Hello, Bill Huber. How are you today?
Good. How are you?
Good. This is C.D. Angeli. You're live here on Cheesehead Radio, joined by Mr. Jersey Al Bracco. Glad to have you back with us today here on Cheesehead Radio. Been a while.
It has been.
Yeah.
That's all right.
Good. Well, if you don't know Bill Huber, and you should, this is the guy who runs the Twitter handle Packer Report, and he's been involved with this for quite a while. And, of course, Packer Report itself goes back years. I mean, I remember buying that as a kid myself. It's changing a little bit, isn't it? We got a little bit of a shift going to online. And tell us a little bit about the new Packer Report.
Yeah, we were actually started by Ray Nitschke before he retired. That's how great the print industry used to be is Ray Nitschke gave up football to run Packer Report. And I'm only half joking there, but actually retired later. But yeah, we've given up the magazine for better or worse because it costs a lot of money to kill trees to print old news. So we're now all online and a lot of video content, and we used to have a lot of stuff for subscribers. We still have a lot of subscriber stuff, but most of our content now is free. So if you haven't checked us out in a long time, give us a look.
PackerReport.com. Excellent.
Hey, Bill, this is Al. Welcome aboard.
How's it going, Al?
It's going good. Hey, listen, speaking of Packer Report, on your site you do kind of a dueling videos thing, reasons for concern versus reasons for optimism. Where things stand right now with this team, which do you have more of?
Oh, boy, I would say concern. I mean, I think the offense is, irreparable at this point. I'm probably not breaking any news there. I just don't think they can solve it. But the defense is darn good, and it's getting better. And for the Fire Capers hashtag that so many people have at the beginning of the season, this is a kind of a typical Capers defense where it starts off a little bit rugged here and there and gets better and better and better. And I don't want to say this is a championship caliber defense, but when you're number 6 in scoring, that's pretty darn good, and you can win a lot of games. So I mean, it's a playoff team for sure. It's hard to see these guys going on the road with the offense. So I would say more concerned than anything, but you know what? They're due to get some turnovers. As everybody learned in 2010, anything can happen with a little bit of luck, and I don't think they're too far away.
All right, Bill. Hey, we got some news this week. The injury situation is getting at times rather dire for the Packers. Rodgers admitted this week they almost had to use Brett Good as an emergency center. With the extra bye week, are we seeing the Packers getting healthier? Is this something that we have to be a little less concerned about, or still some injury concerns that you're seeing?
Yeah, a little less. Lindsey didn't practice today, so that'll, I'm going to assume Tretter's going to start on Sunday. He's done pretty well. Nick Perry didn't practice today with his ongoing shoulder stuff. Because we talked to McCarthy before practice, so I have no idea what's going on there. My guess is that they just gave him a day off, to keep him fresh for the game. That's my guess. We'll obviously ask McCarthy on Friday about that. But otherwise, 4 of the 5 linemen practice. Ty Montgomery practice, so I think there's a light at the end of the tunnel here, as long as no one aggravates something or other on Sunday.
Well, speaking of the offensive line, I mean, every player's on the injury list, and meanwhile, all the analysis this week has pointed to the Dallas pass rush as being their key to winning. So that's not a real good combination for the Packers there, is it?
Well, we'll see. Dallas blitzed the out of Cousins. Will they do that against Rodgers? I mean, God, McCarthy was great today. I mean, he practically begged the Cowboys to blitz him. So interesting to see what they do there. They don't under Marinelli's the D coordinator. His MO generally has not been to blitz. It was kind of an offbeat way to attack the Redskins on Monday night. So we'll see. Green Bay's O line I think has come under. I think a lot of the criticism is kind of unfounded. I think it's still a good group. David Bakhtiari he's been really good this year. I think he gets a bad rap. I don't think he's given up a sack in 6 or 7 games, and he keeps playing on a bad, and he's played pretty well. And Greg Hardy's their best guy, and I would say at Green Bay with probably a slippery Lambeau field, I would say that's probably advantage to Green Bay on that one. Yeah,
well, Ziggy Ansah did nothing all game until he was out for one play and then got his sack, as soon as Bakhtiari was out. So Bakhtiari did do a real good job the last few games.
I think Bakhtiari is kind of like the new Jarrett Bush. He's got to make one glaring mistake a game, and the rest is great. It's always one glaring mistake.
Penalty-wise.
It's left tackle. There's a reason why. I've been looked in a while, but at one point, I think before the season, 24 of the projected starters were first-round picks. I mean, look at the guy. I mean, every single week you're going up against an elite guy. So I don't watch the rest of the league. I don't have time to, but I would assume that most left tackles are in the same boat where they play well for 60 games. There's 1 or 2 plays where they don't play well just because. Look, it's as one of my favorite scouts I talk to likes to say, it's the biggest athletic mismatch on the field. Your best pass rusher at 250 pounds against an offensive lineman. It's the biggest athletic mismatch there is, and at some point those guys are going to get beat. But I think by and large, they got a pretty good player there.
All right, Bill, I've had this issue, and I think I went back and forth with Nagler a little bit on this. The Packers have 99 problems, but the little things ain't one. But Mike McCarthy came out and says Packers need to do better at the little things. When you're analyzing the team and what is going around, I know you just mentioned a little bit before about all the different things. Is it a lot of little things, or are you sensing something pervasive or larger scale in terms of, particularly with the offense? Is this mental, or is this really just a lot of execution errors?
Well, that's a good question. I would say they're just not good enough. But I think technique-wise, I'm never playing an NFL wide receiver and NFL cornerback. I say there's probably, with proper technique, you can probably get open. If you run a precise route, you can probably get open no matter the athletic mismatch. But by and large, God bless James Jones, because they'd have been screwed without him early in the season. But without the lateral play last week, he's on 3 shutouts in 4 games. He's not good enough, and there's a reason why he got cut twice in a span of 6 months or whatever it was. So they're not good enough. Jordy Nelson covers up a lot of things because for the obvious reasons. You don't have to you don't have to worry about the deep game. You can double cover Cobb and say, hey, let's see if you can beat you with Jones and bum ankle Devontae Adams. So I think the issues are largely that they're not good enough.
Just to follow up on that, don't you think that's telling that even we as fans are getting excited over guys like Crockett and Montgomery and Janis and Abbrederis, and we're thinking these guys are going to be the ones who are going to change in the direction of the team, when you have guys like Randall Cobb and Eddie Lacy and Aaron Rodgers, guys who are legit top 100 superstars at the start of the season, and yet we're looking for Ty Montgomery to come in and be the spark.
It's like all the bad teams in the league. Who's the most popular player on a bad team? In general, it's the backup quarterback, right? Because
exactly.
If player A is not good enough, well, player B is naturally. The Jeff Janis thing is the most amazing thing in the world. Fans think he's the answer to everything. He's global warming, the economy, national debt. Jeff Janis solves all those issues. It's unbelievable. Look, if Jeff Janis could play, he'd play. There's no great conspiracy going on here. If he was good enough to play, they'd play him, but he's not. I've told the story 1,000 times on my site. They ran a 2-minute drill a month and a half ago, and Rodgers threw the fake spike play to Janis. Janis wasn't looking, the ball hit the fence. That's why he's not playing. I ran practice video last week, and this is the exception on this play, but they're just running routes on air, just guys running through routes and then throwing the ball. There's no defensive act. He dropped 2 passes in a row, including one right between the 8 and the 3. Again, that's the exception, not the rule. He doesn't drop passes at practice every day, but it's things like that. If you're a coach and you see stuff like that, why on earth would you play the guy? So maybe at some point he's going to be good, and he's been a hell of a good special teams player. But look, he's not the answer. Maybe Montgomery is because he's got the quickness that Jones and Adams don't have, and Cobb has it. But the ability to throw a 2-yard pass to Montgomery is good enough to get you 6, and they don't have that. They just don't have that. So maybe he helps things if he's actually healthy enough to play. But Janis isn't the answer. Abbrederis, well, maybe we'll see. But they are who they are, and they're going to have to get better play up front, more consistent play up front. They're going to have Eddie Lacy be Eddie Lacy. A little bit more of that from Richard Rodgers would help. I think some patience from Rodgers to, throwing the checkdowns is not a bad play all the time. So I think they just have to get to the expectations that they're not great on offense. They just have to be good enough. And at some point, you hope that they figure it out, that they're not going to go score 30. They're not going to make 6 passes of 20 yards a game. It's okay to dink and dunk it down the field if you have to.
All right, Bill, let's touch on the whole Eddie Lacy thing, the Eddie Lacy curfew thing. A lot's been said and written. Let's wrap it all up here and just say, what do you know about what actually happened, and do you think the Packers acted accordingly?
Sure. You can't. What did Ron Wolf say about drafting short cornerbacks? Once you make one exception, you have a team full of exceptions, and I think it's probably no different than disciplining your team, right? If the guy misses curfew, you got to punish the guy. So, but you know what? They're not going to go anywhere without Eddie Lacy. And watch Eddie Lacy get 20 carries on Sunday against the Cowboys. All will be forgotten. And my hunch is he'll start on Sunday, or if he doesn't start, he's going to play right away, and he's going to have a big game. That's my guess. All is going to be forgotten. Eddie Lacy is not a bad guy. He's a different guy. And I don't mean different in a bad way. He's just a different guy. I can just see Eddie Lacy in the hotel lobby shooting the breeze with someone. He's having a good time and said, screw it. I don't care. I'm having fun. And I don't mean that in a bad way. He's just a different guy.
Yeah.
And again, I'm not saying that he's not a bad guy. He's just, I think all fans think all players are all football all the time, and he's just not. When it's time to play football, he's all business. But he's told us 1,000 times he's not a big football fan. He doesn't watch football. It's a good way to make a living. He has fun playing it, but I just don't think it's his overwhelming priority in life. But with all that said, watch him have a big game on Sunday. I could just see him, and 20 carries for 120 yards against the Cowboys on Sunday. I can just see that coming.
Well, hopefully food doesn't become his number one enjoyment in life. Bill, I'm assuming you have watched the Packers for hopefully as long as I have, and there was a point in time where Packers versus Cowboys had a really, really different meaning to it. It was huge. It was monumental, and of course they were the team the Packers had to get past to get to the promised land for all those years. Do you sense anything still in terms of any animosity between these two teams? Is there still that rivalry, or has things just really kind of died down since those days?
Yeah, if Tony Romo was with this team right now and the Cowboys were sitting at 9-3 or whatever, I think this would be a different story. But they've got their own issues. They don't, rivalries and all that crap. It doesn't mean anything to Dallas. I mean, they're up what creek right now, so they got their issues. Green Bay's trying to score 20 points in a football game. Both teams have so many issues of their own right now. I just think all that's ancient history.
So just thinking back a little bit and. Oh, sorry about that. Hey, I was just wondering if you had any real memories of any great moments from those Packer-Cowboy games of the past. Anything that just comes back to you?
They lost all the time.
Well, yeah.
Back in the 90s, I mean, Jason Garrett of all people, throwing for 300 yards on 15 completions. I mean, they just steamrolled them game after game after game after game, and then finally. The Cowboys tapered off a bit. It was 98 or 99, whatever it was, and Dallas finally came to Green Bay, and the Packers beat them 1,000,000 to nothing, or whatever the score was. And it was a great day to be a great day for the Packers and Packer fans. But yeah, it's my recollections of the 90s, and it's got their butts kicked game after game after game against those guys, always at Dallas.
My favorite one was the chop block. I think that was Eric Williams who laid that chop block on John Jurkovic. And Jurkovic, remember, he came limping off the field just yelling, and Packer Nation just roared and wanted to win that game, and we ended up losing it again. That was always one of my memories of just what a dirty team they were.
Yeah, they were. It was like being the Bears in the 80s. They were better than you, and they just infuriated Packer fans and no one. But I just how football is these days. Everyone switches teams. Everyone's all buddy, and there's not many good rivalries anymore. That's for sure.
Yeah. We're talking with Bill Huber of Packer Report. You can follow him on Twitter at Packer Report, and also head over to PackerReport.com. Puts together some great stuff. Please check it out. Bill, one last question for you. 4 games left. How many wins?
10. They should win this one, lose to the Cardinals, and I don't know. I mean, with the Raiders and Vikings, flip a coin either one. I mean, they're just not. It's just a struggle. I mean, I'm not breaking news that none of you guys haven't figured out. They can't score.
Right.
And they don't play consistently enough, but they'll win this game. As Castle will probably throw them 3, right? I mean, they'll probably get 2 or 3 picks in this game. And this is a game. This is like a total Dom Capers game, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's a bad quarterback, and they're gonna feast on this guy. I have a feeling, but then maybe they beat the Raiders and lose to the Vikings or Delaware. I don't know. I just have a hard time seeing this team getting very far. I mean, as good as the defense is, it's a struggle.
All right. Well, we've been talking with Bill Huber. Bill, once again, excellent to have you back. Thanks for doing all the great work that you do, and we'll be keeping up with you throughout this game, following you on Twitter, and hopefully you're right. We come out with a win on Sunday.
I appreciate it, guys. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Thanks,
Take care, Bill. Jersey Al, welcome back.
Yes, that was weird. My computer just completely froze there.
Oh, that's okay. Happens to the best of us.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, let's jump to this.
Cheesehead Radio. Packer game predictions.
Well, I think we heard Bill Huber's prediction. He's predicting a big win as the Packers come back to Lambeau Field. They don't have a lot of home games after this, do they? Is this their last home game?
Let's see. What do they have?
I remember they had a
Raiders,
lot of away games at the end.
Cardinals are away, right?
Mm-hmm.
Vikings are home, right? Didn't they play the Vikings away?
Oh, I guess they only have 1 away game. Yeah, they got 3 home games left here, don't they?
Yeah, the Raiders home also?
Well, it says versus the Cowboys, versus the Cardinals, and versus the Vikings. But they're at Arizona, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, University of Phoenix Stadium. Oakland is in Oakland. Dallas is at home, and so Cardinals and Raiders way out on the West Coast. That'll be an interesting game out there. And then, of course, the Cowboys and Vikings at home. He predicted 2-2 the rest of the way. What do you think, Al?
That sounds pretty reasonable. That's probably what I would have gone with. Cardinals most likely at Arizona. You'd have to give the way with their defense and with the dysfunction of the Packers offense. You'd have to think that that's a win for the Cardinals. And then you've got 3 games, one against their division. The team they're tied against in the division, so that's going to be a tough game. And then you have Oakland, who has surprised a bunch of teams and are no pushover. So, 2 2-2, I think, is reasonable the rest of the way. And like you said, that gives them 10 wins. May or may not be good enough for the division, depending on the result of the Minnesota game. But either way, it does get them into the playoffs.
Certainly, we hope. I'm going to say 3-1. I'm going to be optimistic.
Mr. Optimism all of a sudden.
You know, well, I always try to go the opposite of what everyone else does. So
want to try something different, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, I think Cowboys should be a win. I think the Raiders should be a win, and I do think the Vikings are going to capitulate, just as Detroit did. There's your 3 wins. Yeah, who knows? Arizona, not likely, but there's still a possibility. You never know. There's a lot of talent on this team that's just not playing to their ability. You never know what's going to pull them together, and if it does, great. But anyway, let's get to this weekend's game. What do you say, Jersey Al?
I've got the Packers winning the game, but a little bit closer than Bill. I'm going 26-20 Green Bay. But I agree with, actually, Bill echoed what I said about Lacy. I think they give him the ball. I think he shows that he's the guy once again, and he does have a good game. Packers control the clock, and they win 26-20.
All right. I'm C. Angeli, and I'm also, I ended up picking the Lions last week. I was the only one. And for 60 minutes, I was sitting there thinking, hey, I'm the only one who picked it right. And I was wrong. I was wrong. So I'm going to go back with the flow that I should be going. I'm going to say the Packers are going to win, but I'm still going to say it's close. I still don't think the offense is going to score a lot. I think we're still going to put too much on the defense, and I still think we're going to get to the end of the game, and it's going to be awfully close, closer than we're going to want it to be, but the Packers come out on top at home 20-17 over the Cowboys.
We'll take it.
I'll take whatever we can get at this point. All right. Jersey Al, any parting shots before we head her on out?
No parting shots. We're ready to wrap it up.
Let's wrap it.
Okay, thank you all so much for joining us tonight on Cheesehead Radio, and thank you to Bill Huber of Packer Report for joining us. Be sure to head on over to PackersTalk.com to get all of the Packers Talk Net podcasts. Please follow Packers Talk Net on Twitter and like the Packers Talk Network page on Facebook. Cheesehead Radio and all Packers Talk podcasts are available on iTunes. Just Google Packers Talk iTunes and you will find us. And be sure to subscribe and leave us a review if you can. You can also listen by using Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, or whatever your favorite podcast catching app is. Finally, be sure to support our sponsors, Mayfield Sports Marketing, at Mayfield Sport on Twitter, and Waukesha Sports Cards, at Walk Sports on Twitter.
You've gotten so good at that.
You know, I'm getting better.
You are. Be careful, it might be a permanent job for you.
Oh, good. I need another job.
That or long snapper, one of the two.
Okay.
All right. Thank you for joining us, everyone, on Cheesehead Radio. We will talk to you next week after a Packer win. Until then, good night, and go Pack Go.
Good night, and go Pack Go.
Eddie Lacy, Mike Daniels, Gilbert Brown, Don Barclay, Micah Hyde, your Green Bay Packers, yesterday's legends and today's superstars. From corporate or nonprofit events to private parties, add some spice, hire a Packers player from Mayfield Sports Marketing. For details, just go to PackersTalk.com and click on Player Appearances.
Are you looking for some signed Packer memorabilia?
Look no further than Waukesha Sports Cards.
If the Green Bay Packer can sign it, Waukesha Sports Cards has it.
Check our website for upcoming Packer player and legend signings.
Go to WaukeshaSportsCards.com.